The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Mac Hike in Flowood. If you're in the market right now for a pre-owned or new SUV or truck, Mac Hike in Flowood. That web address. I just said web address. MacHikeFlowood.com. Oh, my goodness gracious. MacHikeFlowood.com for your next Ram truck. Pre-owned or new SUV or truck, and then take it down to Rick's Pro Truck in Flowood. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, and our guests join us on the Patron Tequila guest line. 100% blue agave, super premium tequila. And you're listening Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. And we welcome in Cody Nagel with Oklahoma State. Go Pokes, 247 Sports. And Cody, what a wild week last week. Ole Miss lands Spencer Sanders. They're all fired up. They now have three, quality quarterbacks, two that have played a lot of ball. Spencer Sanders played for 4 years at Oklahoma State and was very successful. How would you describe his tenure at OK State?
Yeah, I think, he's obviously one of the, best quarterbacks they've had in program history. Just when you look at the record books and kind of where he ranks on, all those stats. I think he's the second winningest quarterback in program history. I think if he actually would have finished out the season healthy, maybe they would have won a couple more games, and he probably would have at least matched Mason Rudolph's mark and maybe even passed it. So, yeah, definitely, one of the most successful quarterbacks in program history. And, just the one thing that always stands out to me that, everyone always asks about, is his competitiveness. I don't think there was, you can make the argument there wasn't anybody on the team that was as competitive as Spencer Sanders. He took every game seriously, even some of the non-conference games, he would go out there, wanting to put up big numbers and everything like that. So, yeah, just his competitiveness stands out, and, Ole Miss is definitely getting, a good experienced quarterback for sure.
All right, so very productive. What happened at the end? Shoulder surgery? I mean, not surgery, shoulder injury that he was fighting through, Cody?
Yeah, I believe that's what it was. It started, I believe, back in probably week 5 or so, early October, I think. It was Texas Tech that I believe he got hurt. And there was actually some questions as if he was going to play the next week at TCU. Ended up going out starting, and then TCU came back from, 27 down or something like that. But then as the season wore on, you could tell, his shoulder just wasn't right. He was, as games would go on, you could tell his strength would wear down, and some of those deeper mid-level throws would kind of land short. So yeah, I think that's what it was ultimately that kind of led to him, kind of not really playing much those last 4 games.
Okay. So Oklahoma State, are the fans devastated that he left?
It depends on who you ask. He spent 5 years here. He had that redshirt year in, I believe it was 2018 or so. So, he'd spent 5 years here. He'd done his time here. I think it was more kind of how he left that maybe upset some people. There was some talks that, he was actually planning to return, and then, the portal opened up, and he entered his name right away that first day. And then there was some controversy with him that he actually tried to come back. He hadn't landed anywhere yet, but tried to come back about halfway through bowl prep, and wanted to play in the bowl game. And it sounds like, the coaches basically, said, no, at this point we're moving on, and kind of split ways at that point. So there's some kind of mixed feelings with that. But, I think overall, most fans are once everything kind of settles down, you ask fans in a couple of years, I think everyone will be pretty appreciative of what he did for the program.
Oklahoma State insider Cody Nagel on the Out of Bounds Show in the Patron Tequila guest line. So what does he do better? Did he throw it or run it better?
I think he throws it better when he's got protection. That was one thing that Oklahoma State always kind of struggled with these past few years was consistent offensive line protection. obviously he can get out of the pocket and make plays with his legs. But I think when he's got a consistent, pass protection up in front of him, I think he actually is a pretty good passer. A lot of his mistakes, though, and interceptions came with, pressure in his face, and then he would kind of force some mistakes and stuff like that. But, I think back to the Big 12 title game last year when he had, I believe it was 4 interceptions in the game. Most of those were, he had a Baylor defender basically right in his face and was kind of just trying to get rid of the ball. He probably should have taken a sack and not had the turnover. But, I think when he's got protection in front of him, I think he actually is a pretty decent passer.
Okay. He ran a lot, though, right? Over 100 carries a year when he was playing?
Yeah, and that was part of the offense, too, was, there was a lot of design runs for him, too, which, I'm sure, him being a dual threat quarterback, that'll fit well with Ole Miss and, what Lane Kiffin can do with him. But, yeah, I think, he's a pretty balanced quarterback as far as dual threat, but, I think people kind of underappreciate his passing numbers just because of, when you look at the interceptions and stuff like that. But, I think if he can get, consistent pass protection in front of him, I think those numbers will be, more consistently in the high 200s, maybe 300 yards per game average.
Dang. So he's not guaranteed to beat out Jackson Dart, who had a heck of a year for Ole Miss. Are you surprised he chose Ole Miss, and are you surprised that he didn't have more teams coveting him?
Yeah, to be honest, when I saw that, obviously I knew Jackson Dart was there, and then I saw that they had gotten Walker Howard, I assumed he was going to Auburn because I knew they were in the mix as well. So then when that announcement came, whatever day it was last week, that he was going to Ole Miss, I was kind of surprised. I thought, okay, is there something else here that we're not reading into? Is Jackson Dart, not coming back? I didn't know what the story was there, but I mean, yeah, to have 3 quarterbacks in the room there, he's not afraid of competition. He's going to go out there and compete for that starting job. And I think, he asked me if I'm surprised there wasn't, more teams coming after him. I think a little bit. I think he was surprised, just for, I think he thought the market would be better for him. And like you said, there really wasn't a whole lot of teams that, at least that we know about, that really expressed interest in him. I believe it was Ole Miss, Auburn, and maybe 1 or 2 others. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of, of value for him really on the transfer market.
That's strange. Cody Nagel, Oklahoma State insider, talking Spencer Sanders, who left Oklahoma State and joins the Ole Miss football team. Talk about his personality. What's he like?
Yeah, he's kind of different. He's reserved, kind of quiet. Anytime we'd have him for, media availability and stuff, you could tell he didn't really want to be there and didn't really want to talk. He really couldn't wait to get out of the room and go, go hang out with his teammates or, go back to his apartment or whatever. But, just from being around him, he's kind of quiet and reserved. But obviously once he gets on the field, it's a different personality, and he's, pretty vocal. That was something that definitely changed, the more experienced he became and, the more years he spent in the program. He became more of a vocal leader. I remember his first couple of years starting, he really wasn't that, kind of vocal leader. There was some other, experienced guys in the offense that kind of took that role. So, as he became older, that was kind of, his role on the team. One thing that stands out that I know about him, he's an avid fisherman. I think when he's not probably practicing or watching film, he's fishing somewhere, wherever that is. I don't know where his secret spots were here around Stillwater, but I'm sure he'll find plenty of spots in Mississippi.
Would you say he's fast? Would you say he's just super athletic? Is he explosive when he's running the football? How would you describe that?
He's got good speed, but I think just his kind of shiftiness, and he can, it's hard to describe honestly, but the way he can make somebody miss, it's kind of like he puts somebody on roller skates, to be honest. A lot of his scrambles, he'd get downfield and he'd be, even making some safeties and cornerbacks miss that probably are even just as athletic as he is. So, Yeah, he's got some speed. I wouldn't say necessarily breakaway speed that he's gonna beat out every defensive back that's out there, but he can get to those third levels and everything. But yeah, just his shiftiness and just the natural playmaking ability, to be honest, that sometimes you really can't even describe.
Cody Nagel, Oklahoma State insider, Go Pokes, 247 Sports. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, talking Spencer Sanders to Ole Miss. So if he doesn't win the battle in the spring, what do you think he would do? I guess he's got an option to bounce and land somewhere else because of a grad transfer. Is that right? What do you know about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, to be honest. I guess my understanding was, he's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. It's that extra COVID year. So he basically just has one shot, and maybe that's why it took so long for him to land somewhere. Is he, really wanted to know, or find some place that he felt he could win that starting job, and obviously that's not guaranteed at Ole Miss, and maybe that ended up being his only option. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. If something happens where he gets to Ole Miss and it doesn't work out and he doesn't win that starting job, I think he's kind of stuck there, to be honest. Okay. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
Where's the fan base with Mike Gundy? He's been there for 20 years. He's won a ton. It's not necessarily a program that's won big prior to his arrival. He had a couple of bright moments, but Mike Gundy's done an amazing job. Now, he kind of does and says whatever he wants, whenever he wants. I don't think he probably really answers to anybody. Is he doing enough to where people are still excited about him, or like what happens in so many places, has coach fatigue set in? Cody?
Yeah, I think he's learning that he needs to adapt to modern college football. He was kind of, I don't want to say against the transfer portal, because they had brought in transfers that actually panned out and really helped them to get to the Big 12 title game a couple years ago. But I don't think he saw what the transfer portal was going to become, as far as teams having kind of a mass exodus and then having to bring in more than a dozen guys out of the portal. They lost 16 scholarship players this past window or whatever, and they added I believe they're at 13 guys that they picked up out of the portal. So
wow.
I don't think he necessarily thought that would be the case as far as how recruiting would go. And obviously maybe next year they don't lose as many, and then you don't have to go to the portal that much. But I don't think he kind of predicted, I believe it was back in October or November, that he thought the portal would slow down this year, and that it wouldn't be as big as it had been in the past 2 years or whatever. And here we are, numbers are just as high, if not more, than what they were last year and the year before that. So yeah, I think he's learning that he needs to adapt to modern college football. The whole NIL stuff is involved in that too. He kind of stayed away from that, as it was starting up, and maybe he kind of thought that there'd be more, I guess, rules, guidelines, or whatever, and a salary cap type thing that I don't think we're necessarily going to get for a couple of years until there's control over college football. So I think he's learning that he needs to adapt if he's going to be as successful as he's been in past years.
Have y'all raised a lot of money NIL, Oklahoma State?
Yeah, so they've got a collective, and I think they just announced that whatever they've collected in the past however many months or whatever, I believe it was like $3 million something or whatever. So, and I have no idea what that compares to other places, but there was reports that Sanders was making, Spencer Sanders was making probably close to $400,000 for NIL here. I have no idea if that's completely accurate or whatnot. That's just the reports that I had seen. So I don't know what he could make at Ole Miss, and obviously if he doesn't win the starting job, that number's probably not going to be that high either. So yeah, it's the whole NIL stuff is kind of a crazy kind of factor towards college football that I don't think really people really understand, and obviously with Mike Gundy, he's kind of learning on the fly as well.
How upset, Cody Nagel, Oklahoma State insider, Go Pokes 247 Sports. How upset or not upset are Oklahoma State fans over Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC?
I think they want to say that they're happy they're gone, but I think once they realize the revenue loss, I think maybe they'll be like, okay, maybe we should have found a way to follow them or kept them around. Obviously Oklahoma State hasn't had a whole lot of success in football against Oklahoma in the Bedlam rivalry, so not having to worry about that game every year, maybe beneficial, but still, win or lose, it's a heated rivalry that the state, everyone gets behind that, and that game's always a big deal, whether it's football, basketball, wrestling, really any sport, to be honest. So I think losing them will be big, but I think fans are kind of excited for the new teams that are coming in, and the new rivalries that'll be born in the new Big 12, and who knows how long that conference will kind of pan out. I think, in my opinion, in 10, 15 years, there's going to be two kind of super conferences in college football. So maybe they end up back with Oklahoma and Texas, in the SEC too. Probably be called a different conference name at that point, but I think eventually they're all going to end up in the same conference down the road. So yeah, there's kind of split emotions as far as people that think that they were kind of the stuck-up leaders of the Big 12 and kind of happy to see them gone, but then there's the others that realize just the financial impact that they had on the conference. Obviously Texas brings in a lot of money, and Oklahoma does too. So yeah, I think it's pretty split, to be honest.
What was the Oklahoma State score this year?
Oh, what was it? I've got it pulled up here. I can check here for a minute.
Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're visiting with Cody Nagel, Oklahoma State insider, Go Pokes, 247 Sports, talking about Spencer Sanders, a little bit of Mike Gundy mixed in, NIL, on ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
Yeah, it was 28-13. OU scored 28 points in the first quarter and then didn't score anything the rest of the way. And Oklahoma State had their chances to come back and just couldn't get anything going offensively. Yeah.
I think that was a game I thought y'all would win, or I guess play a little bit better. All right, Cody, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time, and it'll be interesting to see if Spencer Sanders can beat out Jackson Dart.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, man. Cody Nagel joined us on the Patron Tequila. Try Patron Añejo, super premium, aged 12-plus months, super premium, 100% blue agave premium tequila, Patron Añejo Tequila, Briarwood Wine and Spirits. Call for it at any of your wine and spirit stores and your favorite restaurant and or bar. Please drink responsibly. Good morning. Welcome in. We have had a heck of a show today. The 7:30 SEC Insider Hit was all about TV series and movies. And y'all weighed in heavily as Blake and I went over, kind of what are you watching? What are we watching on Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Apple? That was a lot of fun. And then hour number 2, first and second segment, were all about stakes. The fact that Matt Leinart, Fox Sports, former Heisman Trophy winner, LA guy, kind of LA cool, goes with a medium plus temp on his steak. And then Booger McFarland replied to Matt Leinart and said, and I go, well done, which is unacceptable. And then that kind of stoked. Blake had already come in really, really salty, Blake. I call it Salty Sunday, Blake, but it was Salty Tuesday, Blake. It's weird for me to be on remote on Monday in Birmingham.
Yeah, I know.
And so then he really, really got fired up because he doesn't like Booger McFarland as an analyst, TV, whatever, but he also doesn't like the temp that he calls for his steak.
Yeah,
so,
it was not surprising, though, that someone who's that awful, also orders their steak awfully.
Is there anybody else that you feel that strongly about on as far as sports?
TV people?
Studio host, play-by-play, color analyst, combination of the three.
Oh, all right. The basketball analyst for SEC Network who played at Arkansas.
Yeah.
What's his name? He's got the goofy hair. He looks like he wanted to be Justin Timberlake when he came out with NSYNC.
Yes, he played guard for Arkansas.
He's awful. I hate that guy. His voice is terrible. He's not good at his job.
They don't really have a
He's
good
an idiot.
basketball lineup.
Yeah, no. He just says stupid things. Yeah, he's terrible.
Okay.
But I don't ever watch anything he's on. I never turn him on. But when he's on, Pat Bradley.
Pat Bradley,
is that his name?
Let me.
As soon as I said that, I was like,
glass in my eyes, so I don't even have my glasses on.
As soon as I said that, I was like, I don't think that's right, but maybe it is.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
it's Pat Bradley.
He every now and then does
I think
color.
He actually played under Nolan.
He every now and then will do color commentary for games. I'll turn it off. I'm just not going to watch it. He's absolute dog doo-doo. So him and Booger McFarland. I don't know who else.
Okay.
There's not a lot.
Anybody at the national pro level?
See, I like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
I do too.
I liked them in Fox. I actually liked Greg Olson this year. I thought he did a pretty good job.
Greg Olson did a good job.
I
like Nance and Romo.
I love Jim Nance. I said this in our fantasy chat Sunday. I was like, I could listen to Jim Nance. Like, as soon as he starts talking, I'm like, it's football. That CBS music and Jim Nance, I just like it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know who. There's not a lot of other people that I just despise on TV, but there are definitely two of them.
Was Chris Collinsworth kind of in that?
I don't hate him.
Now, Gary is
I like
the
Gary.
SEC loves to hate Gary.
I loved Vern and Gary.
Okay.
I thought Vern and Gary were fantastic together.
Yeah.
Does Gary Danielson absolutely like bow to the throne of Nick Saban in Alabama? Yes. 100% he did. Was he biased? Absolutely.
But every other game he calls is Saban.
But it didn't matter to me. I mean, it was whatever. Like, I knew he was going to be biased. I thought Vern was great. I don't know. There's not
Vern was entertaining for sure.
Yeah, there's not very many people that I would say I despise, but Booger McFarland is the top of the list.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Let me see how we're looking for this weekend. So Fox will give you Olsen.
Yep.
And CBS is the late game with Romo and Nance.
Yeah. Which should be a fantastic AFC call.
Right, Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson?
Yeah.
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 All right. So 2:00 kick Sunday. 2:00 kick. 49ers Eagles. And Bengals Chiefs are 5:30.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Boy, those are tight. Close lines. All right.
As they should be.
Mike Detillier went with the Eagles and the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. Thanks for listening to the show. We had the great steak debate. It'll be on the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. The 7:30 SEC Insider hit was wild as we got into Entourage, House of Cards, Sopranos, Cheers, and Game of Thrones and everything else. So that was a lot of fun, too. Thanks for listening to the Out of Bounds Show on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Driven by your next Ram truck or Jeep Grand Cherokee at Mac Hike in Flowood. MacHikeFlowwood.com.